Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Week 6, and welcome back to another Hands Down DFS video. Ryan here, and we're going to have a new video for you for this Week 6. We're doing a little stars and scrubs, studs and duds, whatever you want to call it, where I'm going to go through each position. I'm going to give you the spot I like to pay up for, and where I think you can find some great value. This is for the DraftKings Main Slate, Week 6, so let's start with quarterbacks. My favorite pay-up position for this week is Lamar Jackson. And if anyone saw what he did on that Monday Night Football game against Indianapolis, that was probably the best quarter of his career, the best fourth quarter of his career leading that comeback. And, we're benefiting from that in the sense that this pricing came out before that game or during that game. So Lamar Jackson at 7,400 is really just criminally underpriced. While some of his fantasy scores this year may not reflect it, he's definitely been the best QB in the league through 5 weeks. And the reason I'm picking him this week is solely based on his price just not being reflective of that game. It doesn't really matter how good or bad the opposing defense is. You see the Chargers, say they're ninth against the quarterback because Lamar Jackson's just a different animal and you can't really defend him. Opposing defenses are forced to use a linebacker to spy on him, and if they don't do that, he's just going to beat you with his legs. And then when they do decide to put the spy intact, he's got two great weapons in Hollywood Brown and Mark Andrews, and he can just pick apart what basically becomes a 10-man defense as one person's been just left, basically guarding Lamar Jackson for the run. So he's just such a dual threat, and really again, just this price is too cheap, even against the Chargers. So really like Lamar Jackson as my pay-up spot. Where I'm going to try to find some value, and I think where a lot of people are going to go this week, because you kind of have to. You can't ignore Taylor HEINICKE at 5,800 going against the Chiefs. So, yeah, this is by no means a sneaky play. He's probably going to carry some ownership of the guys, in this price range. He's probably going to be the highest owned guy, but Kansas City's passing defense has just been atrocious. They're allowing just under 1 DraftKings point per pass attempt to opposing quarterbacks. And just to put that into perspective, the second worst team is allowing 0.85 points per pass attempt, and the league average is about 0.6. So Kansas City is really averaging about 0.4 DraftKings points per pass attempt higher than the rest of the league. Heinicke's averaging 25 yards on the ground as well. He has some rushing upside. He's gotten in the end zone on the ground. And the Chiefs have not only been terrible against the pass, but they're also allowing almost 50 yards per game on the ground to opposing quarterbacks. So, not only do we have that great opportunity attacking the Chiefs through the air, but they also give up lots of yards on the ground, makes Taylor HEINICKE great. Couple this with the fact that Curtis Samuel is still dealing with a nagging injury, and I doubt he plays this week. There's just going to be such good options to stack HEINICKE with. Even McLaurin, who is a little bit pricey, I like him. Curtis Samuel, don't know if he plays, but Humphreys, Brown, Cam Sims, all guys that I think we can really consider. And then you got some good value with Ricky Seals-Jones. And then the guy I'll talk about later that I like. So really like Taylor HEINICKE as my cheap option at quarterback this week. Over to running backs. We've got this whole slew of guys who are questionable. So the spot that I really am looking to pay up is the one of the two guys that isn't questionable, who has the best matchup, Austin Ekeler. There's just not that many expensive running backs on this slate. So a lot of ownership is going to fall on Ekeler. So I do caution that. I still think he has a big game, but if, he's probably going to be close to 30% owned in GPPs, and that's going to be scary to play because you're going to need to play him in at least half of your lineups to kind of get leverage. But regardless, I think he is undervalued, and, we know he's a great rusher of the ball, but he makes his money catching the ball out of the backfield. And since week 1 in that 0 target week, he's been averaging 6.25 targets per game for 50 yards. And lucky for him, the Ravens are allowing almost 2 DraftKings points per target to running back position. This should be a very tight and competitive game. Baltimore, obviously, is a great team. The Chargers have looked really good this year. Herbert's been on fire. So, I think Ekeler should see a lot of work. Should definitely get those 6 targets he's averaging, if not, 7 or 8 or even 9 like we saw in week 2. So that would really give him an average of like a 12 to 16 DraftKings point floor, assuming that two DraftKings point allowed per target average holds. And then, you toss in another 70 yards on the ground. Ekeler's averaging 5.2 yards per carry on the ground this year as well. So, I mean, you do the math. It's a cash game lock for me, and even consider him in GPPs. For my value, for my scrub, I hinted at it, teased it. At 4,800, J.D. McKissic, I really like, and I kind of like even more if Antonio Gibson plays. Gibson's questionable right now. I think he'll play, so I'm pretty sure Gibson will play, but if he doesn't, I actually don't like McKissic as much. I like McKissic more if Gibson plays because I think you're going to get a lot less ownership on him. And so, we just came off talking about a pass catching back in Austin Ekeler. Now we're going to go to J.D. McKissic, who that's what he's known for. That's what he does best. The Chiefs are the worst team in the league in DraftKings points allowed per rush attempt at 0.8. So you would think, that bodes well for Antonio Gibson, except for the fact that there's zero chance, slim, nada, nilch, no chance this game stays very close. Kansas City's going to go up big. They're going to go big early. And HEINICKE's going to be throwing a lot. And I think that puts McKissic in gives him a great opportunity. In just a normal circumstance, he's playing about 50% of snaps. So now put him into a game where this team's going to be trailing mostly the whole game. And, I think we see closer to 60% of snaps for him. Chiefs are also allowing the 5th most receiving yards to running backs so far in the league. And out of the teams on the slate, they're allowing the 2nd most. So I think J.D. McKissic and Taylor HEINICKE make for a really cheap stack option. And while a lot of people are going to be on HEINICKE, I don't think a lot of people are going to have that stack. If you want to hear more about this game, I would refer you to the video that we posted yesterday. That's Scotty's Sneaky Stacks video. It talks a bit about the Washington football team and the different routes you can take with them and some other low-owned stacks. So go check that out. Over to wide receivers. Since we're playing at least 3 and most likely in GPPs 4 wide receivers, I'm going to give you a couple options for each. So starting off with the higher price guys, first guy I like is Ja'Marr Chase here at 6,700. I just like a lot of pieces of the Bengals this weekend against Detroit, but Chase is my favorite. Came into the season making fun of his preseason performance where he just couldn't seem to catch the ball, couldn't hold on to it. But he's obviously coming into this year and just proving me dead wrong. His price is up $900 from last week, but I think that will drive the ownership down on him. And with Joe Mixon recording a couple do not practices on Wednesday and Thursday this week, we know Samaje Perine's on IR. Burrow should be throwing the ball a lot more often, than he has past couple weeks. And I've said it about Detroit a couple times this season, but I think they actually are capable of keeping this game close. They've been able to be somewhat productive on offense. So I think if they keep this game close, Burrow has the chance to be throwing the ball a lot. And Chase has Amani Oruwariye, I think that's how you pronounce it, matched up against him, who has been the Lions' worst defensive back so far this season. He's allowing just about 14 fantasy points when targeted. So like Ja'Marr Chase, another option if you're going to pay up at wide receiver, more for the GPP play, I like him, DeAndre Hopkins. We know how talented he is, obviously. We saw it last year. Hasn't had that high ceiling game this year, but we know what he's capable of. And even though Arizona had a low scoring outing versus the 49ers last week, the Cardinals are normally a very fast-paced team and a high-scoring offense, and their number one wide receiver in DeAndre Hopkins is coming in at less than 5% owned. So when he's that low owned, you don't need too many shares of him. If you're paying 20% or playing 20% DeAndre Hopkins, you're over 4 timesing what the field's ownership is on him. And we know that he's capable of a 30-point ceiling, and Arizona's likely, I don't see them putting up just 17 points again. I think they go back to that 30 they've been averaging before, even against Cleveland's secondary, who's not too bad. So I like DeAndre Hopkins for a bit of a wide receiver pivot if you're paying up. Meanwhile, for the cheap guys at wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown at 4,200. Guy you probably never heard of coming into this season, but Detroit's just terrible. They haven't been terrible this year, but just I guess unnamed wide receiver core hasn't been too bad. St. Brown has 2 straight games with 8 targets, 2 straight games where he's led the wide receiver in snap percentage. Last week he was at 69%. And what should be a common theme for the Lions this season is that they're going to be playing from behind. So Goff's averaging throwing the ball 39.2 times a game. So as long as St. Brown's on the field and running routes at about a 70% rate, which he has been, he should be a lock for at least 6 targets and maybe more. And even with 6 targets, he's fully capable of paying off this price tag. We're really asking for, probably with this cheap price, 3x his value, 3x his salary here would be a great return. So if we're asking him to get around 13 points, I think he can easily do that with just 6 targets. And then lastly, for wide receivers, I'm going to go down to 3,800 and click on Kendrick Bourne for the New England Patriots. Out of the teams playing on this slate, the Cowboys are allowing the second most targets to wide receivers against them. Teams are targeting wide receivers 24.2 times a game against Dallas. And plus, with Damian Harris questionable to play, I think most recent news, it looks like he is more leaning towards a go than no-go. But still, Mac Jones may have to throw the ball, over 40 times, kind of like how he was starting the season. And while Mac Jones doesn't have very, very sexy fantasy stats this season, he's thrown the ball the 8th most times in the league so far and has the 4th highest accuracy. So just $3,800. Kendrick Bourne averaging about a 60% offensive snap count. He's been targeted at least 3 times in every single game this season. And with Trevon Diggs on Dallas likely just removing Nelson Aguilar from the game, Bourne's going to be one of the 2 main wide receivers on the Patriots left for Mac Jones to target. The other one being JAKOBI Meyers at 5,500, who I also really like. But I think that's a fair price for him. But I do like JAKOBI Meyers as well. So just lastly, we're going to move over to tight ends. And if I talked about Lamar Jackson, I'm going to have to talk about Mark Andrews in that game. He had 13 targets, 11 receptions, 45 fantasy points. Insane game. And again, we're getting the benefit of not having the Monday Night Football game factored into this pricing. So Andrews is just at 5,200. The Chargers are allowing the 3rd most yards in the league to tight ends, and Mark Andrews has a 26.5% target share against the Ravens, including about a 23% red zone target share on the team, both highest on the team. And, why are the Chargers allowing so many yards to tight ends? Because their secondaries only allowed 570 total yards to wide receivers this season. Now, they have played against the Chiefs and the Raiders, who definitely have the top 2 tight ends in the league, but Mark Andrews, probably has a case for being the third best tight end in the league, and probably has a solid chance of getting close to that Week 5 performance. Don't think he gets 45 points again by any mean, but I think for $5,200, you're getting a guy who's fully capable of getting you over 25, over 30 points this week. So like Mark Andrews as my pay up tight end spot. And then to close this out for value, I'm going to go with Evan Engram at 3,400. Let's just click on the Giants because I just want you to see that their entire team, doubtful, questionable, IR, doubtful, and then questionable for Daniel Jones. Their whole team is banged up. And Evan Engram, he's the guy that's left basically, and that's why I like him. He's been consistently on the field. And his snap share has just increased week after week. He hit 74% offensive snap percent last week. So that was his high in the season. Like I just mentioned, Golladay is doubtful. And then even if all of the questionable guys play, all their questionable receivers play, so Slayton and Shepard and Tony, which I doubt all of them do. The Rams have Jalen Ramsey, who's probably going to completely blank Slayton or whoever he faces up against, maybe Tony. And that just leaves Shepard in the slot, and then Evan Engram, to be the other guy whoever ends up quarterbacking for the Giants has to throw to. I do kind of like it. Daniel Jones is out. A common theme among backup quarterbacks or rookie quarterbacks, guys kind of getting their first start in a while, is you rely on slot receivers, tight ends, running backs, just safer throws that you can make. And I think Evan Engram can kind of fit that mold for Mike Glennon. So that's our Week 6 Stars and Scrubs video. Thank you guys for watching. Hit that subscribe button if you like this video. Also give it a thumbs up. And just stay tuned for the rest of our Week 6 content and the rest of our DFS content this season. Catch you guys next time.